I don't think the law applies the same way to us, right?
In this courtroom, everyone's time is valuable, yours included, if you choose to respect it.
The courtroom doors swung open with a measured authority, but the presence that followed demanded every eye in the room. The VIP family entered, radiating arrogance, like a second skin. Each step was deliberate, each smile carefully sculpted. The glint of expensive jewelry catching the light like a challenge thrown at anyone who dared question them. Whispers trailed behind them, half laughter, half condescension, directed at staff. Court officers, even at spectators trying to maintain composure. Their designer suits, polished shoes, and subtle air of entitlement painted a picture of someone used to bending the world to their will. Judge Caprio, seated with the calm of someone who had seen it all, observed without a flicker of judgment. His eyes traced the family's movements, noting the tiny smirks, the whispered quips, the imperceptible scoffs. You might think money gives you power, but in this courtroom, dignity speaks louder, he said softly, a line that seemed to echo even before it reached the ears of those present. The room held its breath, phones discreetly lifted, ready to catch history in motion. Even from the back rows, one could sense the electricity, a mix of anticipation and disbelief. Imagined gasps punctuated the air, a ripple of murmurs spreading like wildfire. Comments would later flood social media, clips capturing the arrogance, the tension, unspoken challenge that hovered over the room. Everyone present felt it. This was not a routine hearing. Something monumental was about to unfold, but behind their polished facade, the stakes were higher than anyone realized. The case itself seemed ordinary at first glance, a minor infraction, a dispute that under normal circumstances would barely make the local news. Yet, with the VIP family involved, every detail carried weight far beyond the legal matter at hand. Cameras that normally stayed tucked away now lingered. Journalists leaned forward, and social media accounts began to buzz, anticipating the inevitable clash between privilege and accountability. The courtroom, usually a place of quiet deliberation, hummed with expectation. What made the family's presence so jarring was not merely their wealth, but the sense of entitlement they carried like armor. They moved as if the rules of the court did not apply to them, their whispered comments laced with subtle insults toward clerks, bailiffs, and even the judge's aides. Every gesture tilted chin, a slow glance around the room, smirk at someone attempting to maintain decorum, challenged the very essence of justice. The tension was palpable. Even the air seemed heavier with anticipation. Phones discreetly hovered, recording every moment, as if spectators knew they were witnessing history in motion. The broader implications were impossible to ignore. This was more than a courtroom drama. It was a test of values: justice versus privilege, trust versus influence. The eyes of the public, the invisible jury of social media, and the collective conscience of a society that prided itself on fairness all converged in that room. If the family manipulated the system, the message would ripple far beyond the walls of the courthouse. Wealth could silence accountability. Arrogance could overshadow law, and dignity could be dismissed as irrelevant. Yet the suspense only grew. For the story had already begun shaping itself in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. Gasps and murmurs punctuated the air, whispers of disbelief weaving through rows of seats. Commentators' voices, live and streaming, hinted at a confrontation that no one would forget. If you think this is just another courtroom drama, you're about to see why it went viral, why every gesture, every word, would be dissected for months to come, before the courtroom showdown could even begin. Their pasts revealed cracks that nobody expected. The VIP family's reputation preceded them long before they entered the courtroom that day. To the public, they were a picture of perfection. Philanthropists, business moguls, socialites, whose appearances on charity, galas, and magazine covers suggested refinement and generosity. Yet beneath the polished image lay a history of entitlement that few dared to challenge. Wealth had insulated them, influence had protected them, and each small success had only reinforced the belief that the rules of society did not apply to them. Contradictions were everywhere. Publicly they spoke of respect, of service, of upholding family values. Privately, insiders recounted instances of subtle cruelty, a snide remark to a waiter that left tears unacknowledged, a dismissive comment about a struggling colleague, the whispered assumption that ordinary people simply weren't worth their attention. Scandals quietly emerged over the years. It's often hushed with legal threats or charitable gestures that restored their image, but the whispers never truly disappeared. Each tale painted the same portrait: privilege untempered by empathy, influence unbalanced by humility, arrogance manifested in small, unmistakable ways, a slow roll of the eyes at a clerk who dared ask a question, a smirk at a staff member who had the audacity to follow procedure, the subtle interruptions during hearings that seemed innocent to the untrained, but conveyed an unshakable sense of superiority. Even in the courtroom, their movements telegraphed confidence bordering on hubris, the kind that invited scrutiny and provoked tension in every onlooker. The effect on the public, however, was immediate and volatile. Social media erupted the instant their images were shared, hashtags trending, clips circulating, each moment dissected for signs of disrespect or condescension. Commentators debated, was this arrogance or merely confidence? Influencers amplified every gesture, building a digital storm that reflected the collective unease at watching privilege confront a system designed to treat all equally. Yet within that storm, there was an inevitability that hung in the air like a taut wire. Audiences could sense it. Arrogance, no matter how carefully curated, carries its own seeds of downfall. Every smirk, every dismissive glance, every whispered insult piled onto the narrative of impending reckoning. The more the family flaunted their power, the more the world leaned in, ready to witness the moment their illusion of control would meet an immovable force. But if arrogance defined them, resilience defined the other side. Judge Caprio's reputation was built over decades of unwavering dedication to justice, commitment that had earned him respect far beyond the walls of any courtroom. Known for his calm demeanor, meticulous attention to detail, and an almost uncanny ability to read the room, he was a figure who commanded respect without ever raising his voice. His rulings were never impulsive. They were measured, deliberate, and grounded in a moral clarity that left no doubt where fairness and integrity lay. In a world where influence often overshadowed principle, Caprio stood as a quiet but unshakable sentinel. His journey to the bench had not been without struggle. Early in his career, he faced a legal system that was indifferent, at times hostile to those without power or connections. He had witnessed the vulnerabilities of ordinary citizens crushed under bureaucracy and privilege, and each instance left an indelible mark on him. Those experiences forged his philosophy. Justice was not merely a matter of law, but a reflection of society's conscience. Every case, no matter how small, deserved his full attention, and every person, regardless of status, deserved respect. It was this ethos that would define the confrontation unfolding before the VIP family's eyes. Caprio's life was rich with moments that revealed both his humility and his resilience. Colleagues recalled long hours mentoring young attorneys, listening patiently to witnesses who trembled under pressure, and quietly correcting injustices with careful, thoughtful intervention. He never sought the spotlight, yet his actions consistently spoke louder than any accolade. In public forums, he championed fairness and accessibility, bridging the gap between the courts and the people they served. It was a stark contrast to the arrogance and entitlement of the family now seated before him, whose wealth and influence were wielded like shields against accountability. These contrasts, humility versus entitlement, wisdom versus arrogance, patience versus impatience, set the stage for a confrontation that would be studied long after the gavel fell. Caprio's past experiences uniquely prepared him for this moment. He understood that the courtroom was more than a stage. It was a microcosm of society where truth and integrity would always clash with privilege and perception. His composure was not mere habit. It was forged through years of witnessing the fragility of character when tested by power. For the audience, this was more than legal theater. It was a reminder that dignity, patience, and moral courage mattered. Caprio's presence inspired trust, eliciting admiration for a man whose principles did not bend to wealth or influence. Each gesture, each measured glance communicated that the law was impartial, and that justice, no matter how delayed or obstructed, remained inevitable. Viewers could feel the weight of responsibility he carried, the quiet power of a life devoted to service and ethical steadfastness, as he adjusted his robe and prepared to preside. The courtroom seemed to sense the gravity of the moment. Every whisper hushed, every eye fixed on him, as though the very air held its breath in anticipation. This was a man whose reputation for fairness and clarity would be tested in real time, whose patience and moral compass would confront the arrogance that dared challenge it. As the gavel struck, the courtroom held its breath, and the confrontation began. The courtroom, already thick with anticipation, seemed to contract as the debate began. Sharp questions were exchanged, each word carrying the weight of intention. The VIP family spoke with practiced confidence, their replies measured but laced with subtle dismissiveness. As if the rules of the room were merely suggestions rather than obligations, Judge Caprio responded with a quiet precision, his questions deliberate, his voice steady. Each pause calibrated to let the weight of truth sink in. Tense silences stretched between statements. It's a kind that made the air itself seem to hum with expectation. Every micro-expression told a story. A smirk faltered. A glance darted away. Fingers tapped nervously against the armrest. The family, so accustomed to controlling every environment, now found themselves measured against a composure they could neither mimic nor unsettle. Caprio's calm presence was a mirror reflecting their cracks, exposing their arrogance with a subtle but undeniable clarity. The suspense built like a cinematic crescendo. Each gesture, each hesitation, was amplified in the minds of those watching. The barely perceptible shift in posture, the fleeting tightening of a jaw, the way the room seemed to lean forward collectively. Phones lifted discreetly, cameras zooming in on expressions that would soon fuel endless commentary online. Whispers moved like ripples through the audience, threaded with disbelief and awe. Social media feeds imagined in real time. Hashtags forming, snippets of exchanges already circulating, the first echoes of viral moments. No one expected what came next. The tension was electric, a palpable force that made ordinary decorum feel almost irrelevant. Every spectator sensed that history was being written in subtle gestures and careful words, that the courtroom itself had become a stage for confrontation far larger than the legal matter at hand. Commentators live-streamed, capturing every glance and every inflection, their voices overlapping with the gasps and murmurs of those present. The room vibrated with anticipation, teetering on the edge of revelation. Every participant, every observer, understood that a moment of reckoning was imminent, that the arrogance of wealth and influence was about to meet the immovable force of principle and moral clarity. And then, with a calm that silenced the room, the judge delivered the line that would define the entire encounter. Judge Caprio leaned forward slightly, the weight of the courtroom's attention pressing down on him, yet his composure never wavered. He spoke slowly, each word measured, each pause deliberate, allowing the room to absorb the gravity of what he was about to say. "In this court," he began, his tone calm, but unmistakably firm, "wealth and influence do not grant immunity. They do not excuse disrespect, they do not erase responsibility, and they certainly do not override the principles that bind us all." A ripple passed through the audience. Phones lifted discreetly, the lenses capturing every subtle shift in expression, every reaction from both the VIP family and the spectators. Commentators, imagined or live, felt the tremor of anticipation. Hashtags began forming even as he spoke. Hashtag justice prevails, hashtag dignity over privilege, hashtag Caprio.com. The first murmurs of disbelief from the crowd were audible, a mix of awe and relief. Caprio continued, citing specifics, the minor offense that had brought them here. Each action the family had taken that demonstrated entitlement over accountability. "The law is impartial," he stated, eyes sweeping the room, "and it holds each of us to the same standard, regardless of pedigree, connections, or fortune. Every insult, every interruption, every glance meant to intimidate or demean is not invisible. It is recorded, it is seen." and it will be addressed. The VIP family shifted in their seats. Smiles that had masked confidence began to falter. Fingers tapped nervously against the armrests. Eyes darted, searching for an escape, for allies, for some sign that their influence could salvage the moment. Minor family members whispered frantically, attempting to interject. Their subtle gestures ignored as the courtroom's focus remained riveted on Caprio's calm authority. He paused, letting the silence swell. The only sounds were the faint rustle of papers and the quiet hum of recording devices. Then, almost rhetorically, he asked, "Does anyone truly believe that respect is optional? That courtesy is for the powerless alone. That dignity can be bought?" The words hung in the air like a spotlight, illuminating the arrogance that had been so carefully cultivated. Gasps erupted. Whispers grew into audible reactions. Some spectators pressed record on their phones, the moment already destined for viral circulation. Social media feeds imagined in real time exploded with commentary. Clips shared instantly, reactions ranging from shock to triumph. Each frame dissected and shared thousands of times over. Every viewer, whether present or watching via live stream, could sense the unraveling confidence of the VIP family. The subtle collapse of their carefully constructed persona. Caprio's reasoning moved seamlessly into evidence. He recounted documented incidents of entitlement and disregard for rules, weaving them into a narrative that was both factual and morally undeniable. "Every action has consequence," he stated, his voice steady yet piercing. "Every choice reflects character. And in this courtroom, character matters more than titles, more than wealth, more than legacy." The impact was immediate. The family's attempts at composure crumbled further nervous glances. Shifting postures, small murmurs of frustration. The courtroom itself seemed to respond. The air taut with collective acknowledgement. Spectators, previously tense, now leaned forward with anticipation, caught in the drama unfolding in real time. Minor family members continued their subtle interventions, but Caprio's focus never wavered. His gaze swept the room, acknowledging the public, the media, and the absent observers who would soon witness this reckoning online. A final, calculated pause allowed the full weight of his words to resonate. "Privilege does not equate to power," he concluded. "Respect is earned, and integrity is never negotiable. Those who fail to honor this truth will always face the mirror of accountability, sooner or later." Silence followed. Then, slowly, murmurs of approval, nods of understanding, and restrained applause began to ripple through the room. The VIP family's posture had shifted completely. They no longer projected dominance, no longer smirked or sneered. Every gesture betrayed unease. Every glance signaled the realization that control had slipped from their grasp. Outside the courtroom, the reaction was immediate. Social media erupted in unison, clips shared, hashtags trending globally, influencers analyzing the moment, public opinion crystallizing in real time. The encounter was no longer just a legal proceeding. It had become a cultural moment, a lesson in moral clarity and the triumph of dignity over entitlement. Live streams captured the subtle drama as audiences watched minor family members attempt to salvage composure, only to be overshadowed by the undeniable authority of the judge. Emotional catharsis swept through everyone present. Spectators, commentators, and viewers alike felt the satisfaction of principle prevailing. The clarity of justice asserting itself against arrogance. The courtroom had become a theater of morality, and Judge Caprio had delivered a performance that resonated far beyond the immediate drama reminder that calm wisdom, integrity, and courage could dismantle even the most brazen arrogance. The moment would be dissected for weeks, shared endlessly, and remembered as the instant when entitlement met a movable principle. The hero had spoken, the villain had faltered, the moral lesson was undeniable. The fallout didn't end in the courtroom. It rippled through the entire city. The courtroom had emptied, but the reverberations of the confrontation were just beginning. Within minutes, videos of Judge Caprio's measured dismantling of the VIP family flooded social media. Clips captured every pause, every pointed remark, every faltering glance from the once imposing figures now visibly unsettled. Hashtag surged. Hashtag dignity over privilege. Hashtag Caprio.com. Hashtag justice unshaken. Memes emerged within hours, playful yet pointed, highlighting the contrast between arrogance and integrity. Opinion pieces appeared online and in print, dissecting not only the minor offense, but the broader message. Accountability knows no social rank. Commentators, celebrities, and influencers quickly amplified the moment, lending their voices to the chorus. Late-night hosts referenced the courtroom clash, framing it as a lesson in moral courage. Social media personalities broke down the exchange line by line, drawing attention to the subtle mastery of language. The deliberate pacing and the unwavering composure of Judge Caprio. Each share, each comment, each trending clip reinforced the narrative. Dignity prevails where entitlement falters, and wisdom outweighs wealth. Public response was immediate and impassioned. Ordinary citizens, particularly those from immigrant and working-class backgrounds, saw a reflection of their own struggles in the courtroom drama. They celebrated the triumph of principle, expressing relief that authority could be exercised without bias or intimidation. Discussions erupted about the importance of respect, accountability, and fairness, sparking debates across communities and platforms. People shared their own stories of confronting arrogance, lining their personal experiences with the larger moral victory unfolding in real time. Meanwhile, the VIP family's image began to fray. Analysts speculated on long-term repercussions, influence subtly eroding, invitations rescinded, reputations questioned. Subtle cracks in their carefully curated public persona became impossible to ignore. Their minor family members, once confident and composed, were now reduced to defensive gestures, whispered consultations, and attempts at damage control, all of which only reinforced the contrast between moral authority and hollow prestige. Judge Caprio's reputation, by contrast, was solidified. Profiles highlighting his career, his calm handling of difficult situations, and his unwavering adherence to principles surged online. Tributes poured in from legal professionals, journalists, and viewers alike, lauding his ability to navigate tension without resorting to theatrics or intimidation. His composure, patience, and clarity became the benchmark against which all public authority was measured, an example of how dignity can command respect more effectively than status or intimidation ever could. Emotionally, the public felt a rare sense of moral satisfaction. Tension dissolved into catharsis. Watching arrogance crumble under reason and fairness inspired not only admiration, but a renewed faith in accountability. The story spread beyond the courtroom, fueling conversations about justice and ethics in workplaces, schools, and community spaces. People shared the moment as a cultural touchstone, a reminder that civility and principle are powerful forces that shape not only individual outcomes, but societal values. Yet even as the city buzzed with conversation and commentary, it became clear that the significance of this event went beyond social media metrics or trending topics. The ripple effects were profound, embedding themselves into collective consciousness, inspiring reflection, and reinforcing the idea that actions grounded in integrity resonate far longer than fleeting displays of power. But beyond the headlines, a deeper lesson emerged, one everyone needed to hear. Judge Caprio's final words resonated far beyond the walls of the courtroom, transforming a tense confrontation into a lesson in enduring principles. He reminded all who witnessed it, directly or through screens around the world, that dignity is never conditional, and that arrogance, no matter how powerful, crumbles when faced with calm, unwavering truth. The encounter was no longer about a minor offense or the wealth of the family involved. It had become a story of service, of respect, and of the quiet strength required to uphold justice. In framing the moment this way, Caprio offered more than legal authority. He offered inspiration. Anyone, regardless of background, could stand for fairness and truth. Influence could be temporary, money could buy appearances, but integrity is enduring. Observers imagined themselves in his place, a teacher, parent, a community leader, or simply a citizen confronted with entitlement and arrogance. The message was clear: Moral courage is accessible to all. In every act of respect, honesty, and service matters. The emotional crescendo was unmistakable. Social media erupted with imagined praise and admiration. Comments poured in from viewers who felt empowered and validated, sharing how the story reminded them to uphold their own values. Finally, someone shows that respect cannot be bought, read one post. Justice isn't for the rich, it's for everyone, read another. These reactions amplified the lesson, reinforcing the collective belief that principle prevails when confidence is tempered by conscience. For the audience, the takeaway was both simple and profound. True influence does not come from wealth or status. It comes from character. True power is found in integrity, humility, and the consistent commitment to do what is right, even in the face of intimidation. Judge Caprio embodied this ideal, demonstrating that leadership grounded in ethics inspires trust, admiration, and change. And as the courtroom emptied, one final message remained. The courtroom was empty now, yet the echoes of the confrontation lingered in every corner. The VIP family's arrogance had been exposed, their entitlement dismantled not with force, but with reason, composure, and unwavering moral clarity. Judge Caprio's calm presence had spoken volumes, proving that dignity and principle are far more powerful than wealth or influence. This was not just a courtroom victory. It was a reminder that character, patience, and ethical courage define true leadership. For viewers who followed every tense exchange, every pause, and every carefully measured word, the story offered more than drama. It offered inspiration. It was a call to uphold justice in daily life, to challenge arrogance with calm conviction, and to value integrity over status. Every gesture of respect, every act of courage reverberates far beyond the immediate moment, shaping communities, influencing public discourse, and inspiring those who witness it. If this story resonated with you, now is the time to take action. Subscribe to follow more stories that celebrate moral courage and the triumph of principle. Share this video with others who need a reminder that respect cannot be bought, and join a movement that values dignity, fairness, and accountability above all else. Your voice amplifies the message that justice is for everyone and integrity matters more than influence. As the courtroom emptied, the final image remained etched in memory. JudgeCaprio.com. Composed and unshaken, a symbol of resilience and wisdom. While the defeated arrogance of privilege faded into the background, this was the moment when justice, respect, and moral clarity won. Remember, true power comes from respect, not status. Carry that lesson forward and let it guide your actions, your decisions, and the way you face the challenges of the world around you.